Hello and welcome to Pest in Class, expert voices in pest management. Today, I spoke with Steve Short, VP of Sales and Marketing at Fox Pest Control. We get into the nitty gritty on call center culture, creating mentors instead of managers, and how sometimes setting the numbers aside and focusing on behavior can lead to success. I'm your host, Amanda Salvatore. Let's get into it. Steve Short, you are the VP of Sales and Marketing at Fox Pest Control. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on Pest in Class today.
It's an honor for me, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Today, we're going to be discussing how to create and maintain a healthy call center. I'm really excited about this topic. You have some great insights, but we always like to start with a little icebreaker here on Pest in Class. So what is something an outsider wouldn't know about your industry?
You know, when you talk about pest control, I think most people think that bugs, are just a nuisance. I'm actually pretty new to the industry. I've only been here for about 4 years. But one of the things that I've really learned over the last 4 years is what a huge health concern, both insects and rodents and all the different things that the pest control industry takes care of. And when you think about that, like on the commercial side too, I mean, how grateful are we that when we go buy food and buy there's about bugs in it and all the other things that can happen to it. All that comes from pest control. All that comes from all the companies out there working diligently to make sure that, you're never going to get rid of insects, but keeping them in their place and keeping them not where we don't want.
Yeah, it's incredible how the industry and the community as a whole is really about public health and public safety and taking care of each other. It's a great community and they're doing some incredible work that I think that a lot of people take for granted. So I agree with you. I know you had mentioned that you have been in pest control for 4 years, but I'd love to hear your journey into the industry.
Yeah, while I'm new to pest control, I am not new to leading sales teams and specifically call center sales teams. I've been doing that for over 30 years. I just kind of fell into it. I needed a job back in the 1900s. That's how long ago it was. Now I consider myself a call center judge. I just have loved working in call centers. I've loved being able to impact and influence hundreds and thousands of people because call centers are unlike anything else, to where a lot of people go to work and they go to an office and, there might be 10 people there, maybe 20, 30 people there. You go to a call center and large call centers could be 1,300, 2,000 people working in one place. And so it's just been a great experience, and I've just had a lot of success, and I've just got a lot of joy over being able to impact and influence people on large scales by working through call centers. And obviously, create some great sales for all the companies along the way.
So let's set the stage. What are great indicators that you have a healthy call center on your hands?
A healthy team, a healthy call center team they're doing it because they want to, not because they're compelled if they have to, or somebody, cracking a whip to make it feel that way. And so it's creating an environment where there's a healthy amount of motivation, a healthy amount of coaching and development going on, not just accountability. I always talk to my teams and my leaders is that everybody needs 3 things. They need coaching, motivation, and accountability. And there's thousands of ways to coach people. There's thousands of ways to hold them accountable, and there's thousands of ways to motivate them. At the basis, that's what it means. And so if you have a healthy leadership team that is constantly giving their team members, their employees, all 3 of those things, which doesn't come natural to most leaders. Most leaders, there's some that are great cheerleaders, so they're great at motivating people, but they're not really strong at holding people accountable. Or there might be some people who are really good at holding people accountable, but they're horrible coaches. They don't know how to change and develop, improve people's behaviors, mindsets. That's, to me, kind of the foundation of having a good, healthy call center, is where it's about the people and it's about their development, their motivation, and much less about, the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are some of the specific building blocks that you have put in place to ensure that you keep this healthy environment?
So I think one of the things is like we talk about, I call it the three-legged stool, being able to, coach, motivate, and hold people accountable, and really training and developing the leaders to be able to do all three consistently and working with those leaders, right? Because those leaders need coaching, motivation, and accountability. It's developing their skill set as leaders. One of the things that drew me to Fox Pest Control are the core values behind me, but also their overall philosophy. The first meeting I had with the founders of Fox Pest Control, it says, hey, look, we're actually just a leadership company who happens to sell pest control. For years even before, that was kind of my philosophy. And my mantra is like, look, if I can help people become the best version of themselves and their best lives and develop people, the numbers are going to take care of themselves. The success will come. So that really resonated. That's where that drew me to Fox Pest Control. We have 18 core values. You can kind of see most of them behind me on the wall. They're not just words on a wall. We train on them constantly. Every week, we train on core values. We make our decisions based on our core values because really that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to develop leaders, and leadership has nothing to do with position or title. We're trying to help everyone become the best version of themselves. That's kind of the foundation and the fundamentals.
Yeah, let's talk about these leaders. I know
Yeah.
that leadership really shapes a call center. These are individuals who are motivating, they are helping their team, creating, like we said, this healthy environment. I know that you have sort of rebranded your leaders, and instead of calling them managers, I know that you refer to them as mentors.
Yeah.
Beyond this title change, what is so critical about having them be referred to and operate as mentors as opposed to this idea of a traditional manager?
First of all, I can't take credit for that tweak, right? When I came, they were already called mentors. And I loved it, right? Because that's truly it lives into that. Hey, we're a leadership company who just happens to sell pest control. We're leading people rather than managing processes. It's about the behaviors of the individual. It's about, their growth, their development. It's about them and how we as leaders can actually serve them and lift them and help them achieve levels of success that they didn't think they could achieve. That's my number one motivator. That's what drives me more than anything. And so it's not just a title change. We actually have leadership trainings every week for our team. We take them off the phones for an hour. We take half of the team off the phone Thursday morning. We take the other half of the team off the phone Thursday afternoon. And we actually do core value trainings and leadership trainings every week. Like I said, they're not just words on the wall. We're committed. We're dedicated to it. In fact, another really cool thing is every year, like most sales organizations, we have a cool summit, that, hey, everybody who win the trip, we take them to Cancun. It's really awesome. We bring their significant others, their wives, their plus ones. We take them too. We do something completely different than any other one of those. The first half of the day, we start at 8 o'clock in the morning and go to about noon, is all leadership training for both the employee and their plus one.
Really? I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And so we come and we do it every year. And so there's 3 days of intense leadership training. We're not talking about killing bugs. We're not talking about pest control. We're not talking about Fox. We're talking about how do you become the best version of yourself? How do you grow as a human being? And so, yeah, it goes way past a title of mentor. It really is who we are. Each year, we ask our mentors and all of the leaders at Fox to do what we call an ILP, an individual leadership plan. It's voluntary, to be honest with you, and it's really driven by the employee. And we believe that if you have the right relationships, right, we follow Maxwell, right? And so 5 levels of leadership, Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership, getting permission from your leader to lead you, so that's why it's voluntary. But you go to your mentor, you go to your leader and say, hey, here's my individual leadership plan. Here's where I'm trying to improve. Here's where I see my opportunities and weaknesses. Let's counsel together. You help me become the best version of myself. Has nothing to do with performance, has nothing to do with, hey, how many sales did you get this year? I mean, we have those annual performance reviews as well, but we also have a completely separate conversation. It's just all about the individual and all about the employee and how they can become the best version. So
I love that. I think that it shows a commitment and how you invest in your employees. And I would have to ask, do you think that shift creates more bonding with your team of referring to them as mentors? And does it have that sense of like being uplifting as opposed to just, the constant grind and kind of falling into those ruts?
here's the thing, we're not perfect at it, right? I have mentors that are struggling to mentor. They still like to manage because that's what they've done, and that's where they've experienced their success, and helping them see how they can elevate by still managing, right? Because accountability is part of the three things we need, but to elevate that to where they can mentor, right? It does deepen those relationships, and it does make them lifelong and real.
So when you are looking for these positions, for these mentorship positions, who are you looking for when you're hiring?
We're looking for people who really, it starts with our core values. I'm not looking for somebody who's perfect at all 18. I'm not perfect at all 18, but I'm looking for someone who has those same values, who is willing to continue to grow themselves so they can help others grow. That's the kind of people that we look for. In addition to, right, we want them to be really successful salespeople. We want them to be closers. We want them to be able to, know what it takes, to have been there, to have done that, to lead the way. Our mentors are actually expected and required to spend, a certain amount of their week on the phones selling right next to their people, leading the way. This isn't just do what I tell you to do. It's hey, listen to me. I'm doing it. I'm in the trenches with you every single week, not the whole week, right? But I'm there every week, making the exact same phone calls you make, selling and being productive, setting the bar, building the momentum. When your mentor sits down next to you and grinds side by side with you, how much more clout does that give him or her? When they that sit down to coach you, it's not like, a few years ago when I was on the phones, this is what it was like. It's like, you know what? I ran across that same problem yesterday when I was on the phone. Here's how I overcame those objections and those concerns by the customer. So let's role play this and let's try it. And you can then get back on the phones and try what, worked for me yesterday or this morning. So much more credibility than somebody that just, oh yeah, I've done it in the past. Just trust me. I know how to sell. I know how to be successful. Just trust me.
They're setting the example, they understand what is going on, and they're able to have those conversations with the rest of the team and really be able to relate on a different level than you would think just a typical manager would be able to do, who's just looking at the spreadsheet. Speaking of kind of looking at this spreadsheet, I understand that for your call center, you're more concerned about the behavior than the numbers. Why is that the case? And how has it lend itself to your success?
It's pretty simple. Numbers can be misleading. Numbers can lie. Numbers can be manipulated, right? We've all heard that 85% of the statistics are made up on the spot. And yes, I just made it up. So now it's 8.
There you go.
But we've heard that joke, but it's true. I can manipulate any numbers to come up with a number that to take to my boss or my shareholders and say, wow, look at this success. Don't look at these other numbers back here, but look at this one number. And I want to show you that it's really, really impactful. Numbers are only great for being alarms, flags, bringing something to our attention that tells us we got to look deeper here to find out what behaviors are going on, because behaviors are real. Even when a behavior is faked, it's real. Like, you might be having the worst day ever, but if you put on your headset and you say, you know what, I'm going to fake it till I make it, and I'm going to take every single call with energy and enthusiasm, even though I'm fake it, it's still real. Whatever the number is, there's a behavior behind it. And it doesn't matter whether you're on the phones, you're selling in person, even if you're not selling, you're just doing something else. Whatever your role is, you have 100% control over your behaviors. Now, sometimes we want to make excuses and say that we don't, but that's just false. You have 100% control over the words that come out of your mouth and the words that don't come out of your mouth. You have 100% control of how those words come out of your mouth and how they don't. You have 100% control of your mindset, your attitude, your enthusiasm. Now, there's always obstacles in our life that make it difficult sometimes to have a good mindset and to have a good attitude, but it doesn't change the fact that you still have 100% control of all those things. That's why when you focus on behaviors and remind them that they have 100% control over those behaviors, that's how you change the numbers.
When you're running this call center, is there any times where you're just like, don't even worry about these numbers and you focus more on the behavior aspect?
I've been doing this for over 30 years and worked with multiple companies over that time. I put numbers in Timeout. I laid out an edict to my team that we're not going to talk about numbers at all. We're not going to report on numbers. We're not going to pull numbers. We're not going to look at numbers. And sometimes I've done it for a week or a couple of weeks or a month. I think the longest I did it for was like a quarter. I did it for a quarter once, where for that whole
Wow.
quarter, our team was like, we're not talking numbers. We're not looking at numbers. And it doesn't matter whether it was 1 or 2 days, whether it was 2 or 3 weeks or a month or a quarter. All we could talk about in our meetings was the behaviors that we were hearing, what we were hearing, what we were listening to, how were we coaching the behaviors, how are we changing the behaviors, what were the mindsets. That's all we took us time about. Never once attaching it to a number. 100% of the time, the numbers improved. Never once did the numbers go backwards. Ever.
I believe it. I believe it. I love this because very often in business, you don't get the opportunity to do something like that. But I think the nature of a call center is really, and I hate to say this, but it's about the vibe, if you will, that it's about the room. You're all sitting there. It's about, this leadership and just this positive attitude. Because when you're talking with someone over the phone, they know. It's really hard to fake it. They can tell if you're smiling, they can hear a smile. So it's so important to kind of vibe check, if you will. It's a very cool opportunity in business and very rare that you get to actually work in that way. And I'm glad that you guys are finding success with it.
Yeah. And it's empowering too, right? It's empowering to the leaders. Because it's natural, right? I mean, we live in a number where we're constantly being scored. We're constantly being judged. We're constantly being compared. Because numbers are powerful, right? In our mind. They validate our efforts. They validate what we do. So they're important. I'm not saying they're not. It's liberating and empowering to go, oh, look, all I got to do is if I keep honing my skill set, if I keep developing my sales skills, my tone of voice, my top path, my attitude, my mindset, that's all I'm being looked at and judged on. Okay, I have control over that. So, boom, I'm just going to focus on that. It's empowering and liberating. And I have had, after those experiences, I have had reps. They're like, I don't ever look at my numbers anymore. I just listen to my calls and I work with my mentor and I don't care what my numbers are. And every few weeks when they get paid, they're like, nice.
Whoa, those numbers must be doing great. Yeah.
And they just focus on them and their behaviors. And it is empowering.
Speaking of vibes, what would be your advice to someone who's listening, whose call center has kind of a yucky vibe?
The first thing I would say is leadership has nothing to do with title or position. So it doesn't matter what role they're in. They might be a frontline. They might be the brand new person. And they're going, dude, this is it. Everybody here is just a manager. Nobody here is a leader. Be the change you want to see. Be a leader. Step up. Find out what your core values are and live by them. Focus on your behaviors. And don't compare yourself to anyone else or any other noise or distraction that's going on. And focus on making you the best version of yourself that you can be. And then influence everyone around you to do the same. I can hire an 8-year-old to look at a spreadsheet and look at numbers and say, those numbers are good and those numbers are bad. This person that is good and this person that is bad. We should keep this person and fire that person. I could train an 8-year-old to do that. That's not leadership. Being able to look at the numbers, go past the numbers and dissect the behaviors and then change the behaviors in that person. That's leadership.
There, I'm sure, are opportunities where you are bringing in someone into this call center who is new to the grind. And they are a bit green, but they're eager and ready to learn. So, what are some key factors in training someone in those skills to help them be successful in the call center?
Well, I think before you can even really get to training their skills, it's getting them in the right mindset. Like we talked about, it is a grind. It's not physically demanding to sell on a call center. I mean, you usually got a nice cushy seat to sit in, and it's air conditioned in the summer and heated in the winter. It's just cozy and comfortable no matter what time, as opposed to, being outside in the elements, physically working hard. But the mental grind that it takes to make call after call after call after call, that is the hard. And that is challenging. So getting people in the right mindset to be able to embrace that, in life, you always get to pick your hard. Hey, you work at a call center, so this is the hard you pick, right? And it all happens between your ears. And mentally being prepared to have lots of rejection, right? Nobody likes rejection, but being able to train your mind to, let that go and take the next call without losing any confidence, without losing any enthusiasm, right? I always tell new people is like, you've got to take every single call as if it's the first call you've ever taken and the last call you'll ever take, because there's power in that mental ability. The power of taking every single call as if it's the first call you've ever taken, it actually works two ways. One, if it's the first call you've ever taken, you've never been told no. Nobody's ever yelled at you. You've never had any failure whatsoever. And so you can go into that call with confidence, right? With enthusiasm, with, focus, and not being distracted by any negatives that might have happened before. But here's the other power that people sometimes don't realize. What if I'm killing it today? What if I've already broken my personal record by lunch and now I've got a whole second half of my shift to work? Well, if I come back to work after lunch and I take that very first call as if it's the first call I've ever taken, all the success of the morning also doesn't exist. That call is the only call that matters. And I've got to close that call right now, even though I've got my best day ever going. So many times, it's just human nature that we kind of want to rest on our laurels. It's like, oh man, I killed it today. I can kind of coast through the afternoon. No big deal, right? But that mental discipline, right? To be able to take every call as if it's the first call you're taking. And then take every call as if it's the last call you'll ever take. Too often we're like, I'll just get the next one. Well, there is no next one. So find out what the fear, the question, the concern, the objection that this customer has, overcome that and close them. If you can control your mind to do that, you're going to be extremely successful in the sales call center. I also teach them that there's a sale made on 100% of the calls you take or you make. There's a sale made. Either you sell them or they sell you. And I've got a really nice, very robust commission structure if you close them. But if they close you, there's no way. You're not going to make any money, right? And so being able to, again, in a relationships first mindset, serve that customer, care about that customer enough that you are going to take the time to overcome all of their fears, all of their questions, and all of their concerns to the point they say, oh, you know what? I've got to do business with Fox Pest Control. It's a no-brainer. But that takes energy, discipline, and time mentally to do that. The other thing that I teach new people is there's no substitute for hard work, right? Going back to being where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, doing what you're supposed to do, that's simple. But there's no substitute for hard work. So you've got to work hard and you've got to grind. And if you could do that with the right mindset, even if your sales skills are not superior, you'll be successful enough Now,
Yeah.
if you develop your skills in selling and you work hard and you have the right mindset, now there's nothing stopping.
I know that you also in the call center that your team is able to take ownership of what they are saying and how they are saying it and kind of making it their own. Why does that benefit their sales and the company?
If I'm brand new to selling pest control or selling anything really, but pest control, if I've never done it before, I need help with words, how to say, what to say, when to say. And so we do provide scripts for our people, but we teach them that, hey, this is just a starting point. You take this information, you make it your own, you use your words to make it your own. We definitely have a structured call flow that we hold them accountable to, right? Because we know how to get the customer from point A to point B, right? Very successful. But we give them some autonomy to make it their own, because when you do that, it's going to sound natural. It's not going to sound canned. That's what you want the customer to feel like, hey, we're just having a conversation. We're just having a conversation. And it just evolves from there. So yeah, that's our philosophy. It works.
It really lends to that idea, like you said earlier, that everyone is a leader. Everyone is holding themselves accountable. So it totally makes sense. And I love the idea of them being able to find, they have their parameters, they have their blueprint, but being able to make it their own. And I think once again, over the phone, when you hear someone speaking from the heart, that's where you find some real gold. Steve Short, I want to say thank you so much for coming on Pest in Class. But before we go, is there anything that you wish we talked about today?
I think we cover a lot of great stuff. It really is about lifting people, changing people, and helping them become the best version of themselves, achieve those levels of success that they never thought they could. That's really what it's all about. I would love nothing more that somebody listens to this podcast, that something I said resonated with them to the point that they change the view that they have of themselves, that they can then go and be a leader to other people and help other people achieve levels of success that they never thought they could do. Even if one person, it just happens one person, and what a huge success this last hour was.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Steve Shore, for coming on to Pest in Class. Thank you again.